Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Popularity screams, legacy whispers, and still echoes when the crowd goes home. Let that sink in, because in a world obsessed with likes, followers, and 30-second fame, there's a rare breed of humans who couldn't care less about being the flavor of the month. They're not chasing validation. They're not begging for claps. They're building something deeper, something that doesn't vanish when the algorithm changes or the applause dies. Here's a wild fact. Over 80% of people prioritize being liked over being respected. Now guess which group Sigmas fall into. Hint, they'd rather be respected by the future than liked by the forgettable. Sigmas are the ones you barely notice in the room, until you realize they own the building. They don't trend, they transcend. They're too busy shaping foundations while everyone else is busy decorating facades. They're not built for virality, they're built for legacy. So if you're wondering why the Sigma never shows up to the popularity contest, stick around. Because you're about to find out why they were never meant to. And honestly, thank God for that. Number 1. They'd rather own a legacy that only 1% understand than be famous for nothing. They'd rather own a legacy that only 1% understand than be famous for nothing. That's the Sigma mindset in its purest form. They are not out here trying to be the talk of the town. They're not fishing for compliments or crafting a personality to be liked by everyone. In fact, the idea of being famous for just existing or being trendy for something shallow makes them sick to their core. Sigmas are obsessed with meaning, with substance, with putting something into the world that actually carries weight, even if barely anyone notices at first. That's the thing. Sigmas play a different game. While most people chase numbers, followers, views, reactions, Sigmas chase depth. They build things that not everyone understands immediately. Their ideas often feel too much or too different to the masses, and they're okay with that. Because they know the world isn't built by the popular, it's built by the misunderstood. They're willing to be seen as weird, boring, intense, or even invisible, because their focus is on impact, not attention. A Sigma would rather create a body of work that only a tiny percentage of people truly get. But those few are the ones that matter, the thinkers, the creators, the game changers. Because to them, quality connection outweighs public opinion every single time. They're not for everyone, and that's the entire point. They'd rather be the quiet force behind a revolution than the face of a passing trend. The world might not clap for them today, but give it time. Their work will speak when they're not in the room anymore. You'll never catch a Sigma trying to be liked just for the sake of being liked. They don't throw around empty charm or adjust themselves to fit the moment. They're too grounded in who they are. They don't want to be remembered for having a pretty feed or a catchy slogan. They want to be remembered for something real, something that shaped the people who actually paid attention. Fame fades, attention gets recycled. But a real legacy? That's built in silence, misunderstood by many, and deeply respected by the rare few who truly see it. That's the Sigma's endgame, not popularity, but permanence. Number 2, they have a pathological obsession with meaning over hype. They have a pathological obsession with meaning over hype. It's not a preference, it's wired into their DNA. You could wave 1 million followers in their face, give them front row seats to fame, and offer them a stage to show off, and they'd still walk away if it didn't mean something. Surface-level noise just doesn't cut it for them. Hype is a sugar rush. Sigmas are after a slow-burning fire that fuels something real. Compliments don't excite them if they're hollow. They don't care if people are clapping. They want to know why they're clapping. Is it out of habit, or does it come from real understanding? And if it's just blind praise with no substance behind it, you can keep it. Sigmas are interested in doing things that move the needle, not socially but structurally. They want to build something that has weight, something people feel, not just scroll past and forget 2 seconds later. They're ruthless when it comes to fluff. If something sounds good but has no backbone, no purpose, no function, they'll toss it. Whether it's a fake friendship, a performative project, or a trendy idea with no depth, Sigmas aren't playing that game. They ask hard questions about everything they touch. Is this useful? Does it serve a purpose? Will this still matter in 5 years? If the answer is no, it doesn't survive their filter. And their precision, that's not perfectionism. It's about intention. Every word they say, every project they take on, every move they make is calculated to mean something. They don't scatter energy for visibility, they focus it for impact. That's why their work often hits differently. It's layered, considered, and built to last. The world's addicted to hype, to instant buzz, to flash-in-the-pan moments. Sigmas aren't impressed. They're out here crafting meaning like it's sacred. Because to them it is. And if that means they get overlooked while everyone else is going viral, so be it. They're not building for now. They're building for forever. Number 3, they don't play to be seen. They play to be remembered. They don't play to be seen. They play to be remembered. And that difference changes everything. In a culture where everyone's performing like their life depends on it, Sigmas are behind the curtain, quietly building something that doesn't need the spotlight to matter. They don't crave attention because they know attention is cheap. Anyone can go viral, but very few leave a mark that lasts after the noise dies down. Sigmas don't show up just to be visible. That's never the goal. They don't want to be everywhere. They want to matter somewhere deeply. They're not interested in being the most followed, the most talked about, or the most seen. They want to be the one who planted an idea, created a shift, or sparked a change, and did it so well people still talk about it years later. That's the kind of presence they care about. Not loud, just lasting. They understand something most people miss. Visibility is addictive but forgettable. You can be on everyone's screen and still be irrelevant the next day. But value? Value sticks. Sigmas are obsessive about putting something meaningful into the world. A thought, a creation, a system. Something that carries their fingerprint long after they've left the room. You might not notice them at first, but when you finally do, it's not because they shouted. It's because what they built refuses to be ignored. They don't waste energy trying to trend. They're too busy constructing things that can't be erased. Most people are chasing now. Sigmas are busy laying bricks that will still be standing when the trend chasers are tired, burned out, and forgotten. Their ideas are designed to echo, not just entertain. That's why they don't need to be constantly seen. They know legacy doesn't need a stage, it needs substance. And they've got plenty of it. So while the world scrambles to be noticed, Sigmas stay focused on being remembered, and not by everyone, just by those who actually matter. Number 4, they value building roots more than they value building reputations. They value building roots more than they value building reputations. That's why they're not on the PR treadmill trying to look perfect for the crowd. Sigmas don't care if people like their surface. They care if their core is strong enough to withstand chaos. While the world's busy curating aesthetics, they're digging deep, reinforcing their inner foundation and getting brutally honest with themselves. Because they know the storms are coming, and no polished reputation will save you when life decides to shake the ground. Reputation is fragile. It's public opinion on life support. One rumor, one mistake, one misinterpreted action, and it all comes crashing down. Sigmas aren't interested in that kind of currency. They invest in something deeper. Unshakable principles, tested ideas, and an inner structure that doesn't collapse when everything else does. That's why they spend more time alone in thought than they do networking or self-promoting. Not because they're antisocial, but because they're obsessed with being solid beneath the surface. They're not trying to be seen as smart, kind, powerful, or cool. They're trying to actually be those things, quietly, without the applause, without the mask. They put more energy into asking themselves, is this real, than they do into asking, does this look good? That's rare. Especially in a world where most people are playing to the gallery, Sigmas are playing to their legacy. And here's the irony. Because they don't chase reputation, they often end up with a powerful one, not built on hype or image, but on depth and consistency. People might not notice them immediately, but when they do, it's with respect. Because the Sigma isn't flashy, but they're rooted. And roots don't care if you see them. They care if they can weather the storm. So while others scramble to stay relevant, Sigmas go underground and do the hard work. the kind that doesn't get posted, praised, or even noticed, until it's the only thing still standing. Reputations can be erased, but roots, they grow back stronger, and that's exactly why Sigmas choose depth over display every single time. Number 5, they bury their greatness in uncomfortable places on purpose. They bury their greatness in uncomfortable places on purpose. Not out of insecurity, not out of fear, out of intention. Sigmas know real power doesn't need to scream. It doesn't need to be broadcast, explained, or dressed up to be taken seriously. In fact, if their brilliance is too easy to spot, it probably means they've made it too accessible. And they don't do that. They hide it. Behind silence. Behind simplicity. Behind a quiet presence that most people overlook, until they don't. That's the trick. Sigmas make you earn the right to see who they really are. They don't lead with talent, flash, or credentials. They lead with stillness, with observation, with a read the room before you speak kind of energy. And most people take that as passivity or detachment, but it's not. It's a test. Because if you can't sit still long enough to look deeper, you were never meant to understand them in the first place. They don't care to be the loudest voice. They'd rather be the one who says the thing that sticks with you for days. And that's why they bury their genius in places people find uncomfortable, like raw honesty, unpopular opinions, or extreme solitude. They know the world's addicted to shortcuts, but legacy isn't built in the obvious. It's built in what people ignore, avoid, or can't handle. Sigmas will sit in the tension others run from. They'll quietly master something with no audience, no applause, and no external reward, just so the result has integrity. Their greatness isn't dressed up to be consumed. It's protected, because they know how cheap exposure really is, in a world where everyone's pretending to be something they're not. So they go in the opposite direction. They make their genius subtle, quiet, almost invisible, until the moment it's not. And when it finally shows, people think it came out of nowhere. But it didn't. It came from years of unseen labor, from solitude that looked like isolation, but was really transformation, from silence that wasn't emptiness, it was focus. Sigmas bury their greatness deep, not because they're hiding from the world, but because the world hasn't earned the map to find it yet. Number 6, they create work that people don't fully understand until it's too late. They create work that people don't fully understand until it's too late. That's the curse and the brilliance of being a Sigma. They operate so far ahead of the curve that when people first see what they're doing, the usual reaction is confusion, mockery, or flat-out dismissal. People label it too much, too serious, or too weird. And then, boom, years later, that exact work becomes the blueprint. Suddenly, everyone's trying to copy what they once called crazy. Sigmas don't build for now, they build for what's coming. Their minds don't sit comfortably in the present. They stretch, twist, and push into future problems, future questions, future gaps. They sense what the world will need before the world even knows it's missing. That's why their work often gets slept on, overlooked, or misunderstood at first glance. It's not built to be instantly digestible, it's built to last. They don't simplify their brilliance just to be palatable. If their ideas are complex, so be it. If their vision is too layered for the average person to grasp, they won't dilute it to win approval. They'd rather be misunderstood in silence than dumber down their mind to fit in. It's not arrogance, it's protection. They protect the purity of their work from premature opinions that could corrupt it before it's even fully born. What makes it even more fascinating is that Sigmas know people won't get it at first, and they still go all in. That takes guts. That takes obsession. And that takes a deep belief in the unseen. While everyone else is trying to go viral next week, the Sigma is building something the world will quote, study, or imitate 5, 10, or 20 years from now. They don't just want to add noise, they want to spark evolution. And when the world finally catches up, they won't be the ones bragging. They'll already be on to the next thing, building the next misunderstood masterpiece. Because Sigmas don't wait for applause. They work in silence and let time do the clapping. Number 7. They don't chase relevance. They create frameworks that outlive trends. They don't chase relevance. They create frameworks that outlive trends. While everyone else is busy riding the latest wave, desperate to be noticed for the moment, Sigmas are quietly reshaping the entire ocean. They're not playing follow the leader or scrambling to stay trendy. Instead, they're building the foundations others don't even see yet, crafting systems, ideas, and philosophies designed to last long after the noise has faded. Being relevant today means nothing tomorrow, and Sigmas understand that better than anyone. They don't want to be a footnote in someone else's story or a fleeting headline. They want to be the reason stories exist at all. This means they don't bend to popular opinion or mimic what's working now. They go deeper, pulling apart the cultural fabric to reweave it with stronger, more lasting threads. They don't surf the current. They are the tectonic plates shifting beneath it, slowly but inevitably changing the landscape for everyone. This mindset makes Sigmas immune to the frantic chase that traps so many people in a cycle of burnout and insecurity. They're not sweating over likes, shares, or short-term applause. Instead, they're focused on building frameworks, mental models, innovations, and movements that stand the test of time, no matter how fast the world spins. Their work might seem out of sync with the moment, but that's because it's meant for the future. They're not adapting to culture. They're reconstructing it, brick by thoughtful brick. And here's the kicker. By refusing to chase relevance, they actually become relevant on a whole other level, one that lasts. Because true impact isn't about being loud or popular. It's about creating something solid enough that culture has no choice but to catch up. While others scramble to fit in, Sigmas quietly hold the blueprint for what's next. That's why their influence is subtle but seismic, invisible at first but unstoppable in the long run. Number 8, they know legacy doesn't clap, it echoes. They know legacy doesn't clap, it echoes. Unlike the fleeting applause that fades the second the spotlight moves on, legacy is a long, slow ripple that travels far beyond the noise of the moment. Sigmas aren't in the business of chasing loud cheers or instant validation. They're focused on creating something that reverberates long after the crowd has gone silent. This means they don't crave attention or recognition up front. They're not seeking the quick high of applause or the spotlight's warm glow. Instead, they work in the shadows, building something so substantial that its impact keeps vibrating through time, sometimes in ways even they can't predict. Legacy isn't about being loud, it's about being deep. It's the difference between a shout and a whisper that carries across generations. Sigmas thrive in that depth. They understand that true influence isn't measured by how many heads turn today, but by how many lives are touched tomorrow. Their achievements don't scream for attention. They quietly reshape the landscape beneath the surface. They build with patience, precision, and an almost obsessive dedication to meaning. While the world chases headlines and momentary fame, Sigmas plant seeds that will grow into forests long after their voice is gone. They're not interested in applause that dies with the moment. They want echoes that live forever, and that's where they find their power. Not in the crowd's roar, but in the lasting resonance of what they create. Number 9, they plant seeds, knowing they may never sit in the shade. They plant seeds knowing they may never sit in the shade. That's the kind of mindset most people don't understand. Building something so meaningful, you might never personally enjoy its fruits. But for Sigmas, it's not about immediate rewards or recognition. It's about getting the foundation right, so whatever they create can thrive long after they're gone. They don't need the applause or the comfort of watching others bask in what they started. The satisfaction for them lies in the craftsmanship itself, in the purity of the work done right, regardless of who benefits. This detachment from ego and immediate payoff sets Sigmas apart. They're builders, not glory seekers. Most people want their success wrapped in instant gratification, but Sigmas play the long game. They're okay with being invisible while the legacy they plant grows. They understand that real impact often takes years, sometimes lifetimes, to fully reveal itself, and that's exactly why they do it. Because legacy isn't a personal trophy, it's a gift to the future. So they lay every brick, sow every seed, and craft every idea with ruthless precision, knowing full well they might never sit in the shade of the tree they grew. And that's the purest form of greatness. Working hard without needing to be seen, all for a tomorrow only they believe in. Number 10. They're not the product, they're the blueprint. They're not the product, they're the blueprint. Most people mistake success for the final, flashy product, the image, the trend, the viral moment, but Sigmas, they're the origin story behind it all. The original code that others unwittingly mimic without even realizing. They aren't riding waves. They're the ones who quietly design the surfboard, the wave patterns, and sometimes even the entire ocean. That's why you don't see hordes copying Sigmas, because they're popular. Popularity is fleeting, superficial, and copied by the masses chasing what's hot right now. Sigmas aren't interested in being hot, they're interested in being foundational. They are the architects of ideas, behaviors, and systems that become the blueprint for others to follow. When people imitate a Sigma, they're not just copying a style or a persona, they're chasing a pattern, a way of thinking, a framework so original and solid it can't be reduced to mere trends. Sigmas are the source code behind cultural shifts and personal transformations. But most don't even know it because the blueprint is subtle, embedded beneath layers of silence and strategy. Being the blueprint means they don't have to scream to be heard. Their influence is quiet, structural, and undeniable. The product, the visible result, might get attention, but the Sigma's real power lies in being the foundation that everyone else stands on without realizing it. And that's why Sigmas are timeless. Not because they chase fame, but because they are the reason fame exists in the first place. Number 11. They think in centuries, not minutes. They think in centuries, not minutes. While everyone else is anxiously refreshing notifications, measuring their worth by likes, comments, and instant approval, Sigmas are operating on a completely different timeline. Their minds are busy crafting moves, ideas, and legacies that won't just flicker briefly and vanish. They're building foundations meant to last long after today's idols have faded into obscurity. The world runs on quick hits and fast fame, but Sigmas don't get caught up in that short-term frenzy. They don't need instant gratification because their vision stretches far beyond the noise of the moment. They're like chess players thinking 10 moves ahead, except their game spans decades, even centuries. What they create today might not make sense or get applause right now, but they're okay with that because they're playing for an audience generations from now. This kind of thinking isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. It means Sigmas are immune to the panic and pressure that trap most people in endless cycles of chasing fleeting validation. They aren't distracted by the buzz of the present. Their focus is on the future's silence, the echo of their work when the applause has long died out. So while the crowd obsesses over the next viral moment, the Sigma is already several steps ahead, engineering moves and planting seeds that will outlast trends, fads, and fleeting popularity. Their impact isn't a spark, it's a slow-burning fire meant to illuminate paths long after the flash of today's headlines has burned out. Number 12. They burn bridges when the land is cursed. They burn bridges when the land is cursed. No hesitation, no performance, no fake goodbyes. If something threatens their inner peace, their integrity, or their purpose, it's already dead to them. Sigmas are not loyal to dysfunction, and they don't romanticize suffering just because it's familiar. While the world teaches people to stay connected, even to what's toxic, Sigmas are masters at cutting ties with zero drama. If the land is cursed, the bridge deserves to burn. Most people will cling to broken relationships, soul-sucking jobs, or fake friendships just to maintain an image. Sigmas won't. They're allergic to pretense. They won't sit at a poisoned table for the sake of keeping the peace. They don't do small talk when the air is filled with quiet resentment. They don't nod along when the environment is quietly draining them. They walk, sometimes silently, sometimes suddenly, but always with a reason. And it's not about ego. It's not about being too good for people. It's about clarity. Sigmas know when something no longer aligns. They feel when the energy is off. They see through manipulation disguised as loyalty. And when that line gets crossed, they don't explain, justify, or beg. They leave. Because staying would be a betrayal of self. That's the thing. Sigmas aren't afraid to walk alone if it means staying true to what they believe. They will leave family if it's abusive. They'll reject fame if it compromises their values. They'll turn down fortune if the cost is their peace. That's how serious they are about purpose. They'll burn the whole damn bridge if the ground is contaminated, and they won't look back to see who's screaming about it. And if you ask them why they left, they probably won't even bother answering. Because by the time a Sigma walks, they've already made peace with the silence. They don't need closure. They are the closure. So while others collect connections like trophies, even the fake, toxic, and dysfunctional ones, Sigmas collect alignment. And sometimes that means lighting the match and walking away with nothing but their sanity intact. No regrets, no applause, just freedom. Legacy isn't some flashy trophy you hold up for a moment before it fades into the background. It's the quiet, unshakable foundation that withstands time, storms, and forgetfulness. Sigmas understand this on a level few ever will. They don't scramble for attention or crave the shallow validation that floods social feeds and headlines. Instead, they focus on crafting something meaningful, something that outlives trends and transcends the noise of the present. This commitment to depth over display means Sigmas operate on a plane far beyond the immediate gratification most chase. They burn bridges when necessary, plant seeds knowing they might never sit in the shade, and build frameworks that rewrite the rules for those who come after. Their work often goes unnoticed at first because it demands patience, reflection, and a willingness to be misunderstood. But when the world finally catches up, their influence is undeniable and permanent. Choosing legacy over popularity is a radical act in today's culture, obsessed with likes, shares, and instant fame. It requires courage to be misunderstood, discipline to work without applause, and vision to think centuries ahead while others are stuck in minutes. But that's exactly what sets Sigmas apart. Their ability to build in silence, impact in shadows, and live for a future most don't even consider. So if you want to understand the real power of a Sigma, look beyond the surface. See the legacy being built quietly, patiently, and relentlessly. Because true greatness isn't about being seen by the masses, it's about being remembered by generations. And that, in every sense, is why Sigmas are made for legacy, not popularity. Their strength lies in what echoes long after the crowd has moved on, and that's a kind of power few will ever touch. If you found this deep dive into the Sigma mindset eye-opening, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button to join the tribe. Drop a like to show some love and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and sharing this with others who crave real, lasting impact helps build a community that values legacy over hype. Don't forget to share this with anyone who's ready to break free from the noise and start building something that truly lasts. Let's grow together, one powerful idea at a time.